Yikes, man. With United these days, it is constantly one step forward and one or two steps back again. And the mood in the dressing room, according to Mateus Cunha, is, quote, horrible. Honestly, horrible. I always say the same. We know how important it is to play for a club like this one, and we go for every game to win. For it not to end like that, it is a horrible feeling. Everyone wanted to do more. Everyone needs to do more. Of course, we need to go again. That is the only way. One step forward. Optimism surrounding a result like the defeat of Chelsea. Right. Now will they string some results together, only to play Brentford and look as tragic as they ever have been. United have failed to win 2 consecutive Premier League matches under Ruben Amorim. In fact, looking back on his time at the club, United hasn't been able to get 2 Premier League wins in a single month since January of 2025. The highs of optimism, the lows of reality, the frustrations of Amorim's decisions with the system, why the defenders can't adapt to the back three, all to be discussed by the United voyeur. I don't know, man. I have an interest in United given the man in charge, Amorim, as well as just a, whoa, how are they not ever improving kind of interest, you know? So I end up basically watching every match. Call me the United voyeur, just as Mourinho called Wenger back in the day, right? Also, huge shout out the Box to Box boys. Really appreciate the shirt, and I've linked to their shop below. Not a paid ad, obviously, just shouting out the homies who do great work. Another nomination, by the way, at the Football Content Award, so go vote for them. But yes, beautiful shirt. I can attest to the quality. Heavyweight. Another match day, another slide backwards. United sit in 14th with 7 points, back in the bowels again, with just 3 more points than 18th placed Burnley, 1 more point than an Aston Villa side that was winless in their first 5 matches. United are currently on a trajectory of 37.8 points, probably enough to stay up. The belief in the past was that 40 was your guarantee, right? But the required amount of points to stay up of late has been dropping due to the dire yo-yo displays from the newly promoted teams from the Championship. That's good for United because with every year they have slipped a bit, and like we said in the last video, while Amorim may not be the main problem, his reluctance to change, he's certainly not the solution or the answer right now. And what's funny is that I'm sure United supporters will remember this tweet from the club based on a David Moyes press conference back in the day, over 10 years ago. In December of 2013, Moyes said that United must improve in many areas, including passing, creating chances, and defending. The same could be said of Manchester United in this moment. So you can understand why someone like Wayne Rooney, a big supporter of the club he represented for 13 years, said, quote, "Manager, players, whatever that is, whatever it takes to get Manchester United back. I don't recognize the whole football club. I don't see players fighting. I don't see character. I don't see desire to win. I go to a game watching, expecting, here we go again, expecting the team to lose or maybe pick up a point. It's not even just results on the pitch. It's everything about the club that needs fixing. Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Ineos have walked into a real challenge. We're seeing staff members getting sacked after 20, 30 years who are very important people to that football club. The soul has gone from the club. It needs a new engine, a new lease on life. It needs something to kickstart that football club." Honestly, how long have we been hearing fans and former players say things like this about Manchester United? Brentford provided them another unwelcome opportunity to do so, another unwelcome opportunity for Amorim to frustrate. And despite some still carrying belief in him, the belief isn't blinding his most faithful followers as it used to. You even have someone as positive as Good Vibes John, someone who always tries to stay positive in the muck of supporting United, starting to lose some faith.
And I'd be lying to you if I sat here and told you guys that I'm feeling optimistic or confident, because I'm not. I'm scared.
That, of course, came after United lost to Brentford, a team that lost their star attackers, one of them went to United, their manager, and had just 1 win to speak of in the Premier League prior to that match. Granted, United came in with a grand total of 2, so not exactly towering above them, right? But you can see that there isn't a really huge bloodthirsty call for a sacking of Amorim these days, at least not like it was for Mourinho, Oli, Ten Hag. A lot of supporters don't want to see the sacking cycle repeating simply on principle. Others know Amorim isn't the guy, or at least they think he isn't, but don't want to call for the sacking at risk of being labeled as toxic within the fan base. And others are much more vocal about wanting him out, as they believe the players don't believe in the manager and that the manager looks like he doesn't believe in himself anymore. And then there's another group that I guess fall into one of the other previous groups, but the guys who don't really want to keep Amorim, but don't know who could come in in and do better at this club in this moment based on the evidence that they have from previous managers. And it seems like the board too are stuck in this place where they know that the fan base doesn't trust them to make the right decisions. They know that the appetite for another sacking isn't really there, but at the same time, how long do you allow the club to sink before a move is made? When they officially drop into a relegation place, is that when you finally sack somebody?
Sharp intake of breath. Saved by Kevin Kelleher.
Against Brentford, there was misfortune for sure. Brentford could have had a red. The penalty that was saved after a long VAR check and substitutions before the penalty, which was weird. But anyway, there was misfortune. But at some point, you can't just speak about the unlucky and almost moments, right? And Amorim is the first to not shy away from that. He spoke of how the team lacked control, that they can be better with the ball in order to control games even when things aren't going their way. The least you can do is control the ball. But once again, they find a way to lose. And once again, they look like they have no idea how to defend in a back three. It used to be mystifying to me, but now it's clear. The back three don't know when to step forward and when to hold their shape, constantly out of position, gaps opening up everywhere. Is it because they're slow that they have these issues with the long balls, which undo them time and time again as it did against Brentford? Yes and no. Now, there's a big difference in how defenders play in a back three versus in a back four. Speed comes into it, but like any tactic, it depends on how far up the pitch you want to play. Nuno Espirito Santo is a big-time back three enjoyer, and his assistant, Ian Cathro, has said to The Athletic, quote, "If you want to defend low and play on the counter, allowing the opposition to have the ball, your center backs are not going to be exposed to a lot of high-speed runs, so you don't need them to be faster than every striker in the division. They do need to be physically dominant and confident defending around and inside the penalty box, and agile in the more intricate passages of play in the final third. The alternative scenario is playing on the cliff's edge, as high up the pitch as possible and using offside as an element. You're tempting your opponents to play it in behind, knowing you're good enough to recover the ball, so you need your center backs to have explosive pace to an extent. United are somewhere in the middle. They try to counter, but given there is a space between them and the midfielders, they are constantly pulled forward and out of their shape. And when you have slow center backs, then getting pulled out of shape is a huge problem. Speaking to this, here's Matt Upson on the differences between the two. Quote, "There were times in my career, including in my debut for Arsenal, when I played as the left-sided center half in a back three. And whenever the opponents had the ball on my side of the pitch, I'd have freedom to go all the way into the middle and stay with my man. In a four, when your striker drops deeper, you just hand him over to a midfielder and get back into shape. In a three, you don't have a disengaging point. Having that extra center half as cover gives you license to be more aggressive and persistent, pressurizing an attacker, even following him into midfield." Now, what he said about a disengaging point for a back three seems like it's one of the biggest issues United have in defense. They consistently get pulled away and don't have the pace to recover quickly enough, while the other center backs don't adequately cover them. Why is that? Ahead of them, you have the midfield, a Bruno Fernandes who is at his best playing closer to the goal. I mean, seriously, compared recent United Bruno to the one who plays for Portugal, night and day. Not only is the midfield set up in a way where there isn't a clear designation of who should sit deep to help protect the back line, but they are constantly overrun, meaning you then have numbers dominating in the middle right in front of the defense. Then the defense gets pulled out, chaos. And wouldn't you know it, Keith Andrews, the coach of Brentford, pointed this out exactly after the match, saying, quote, "You try and create overloads, one of which would be if we have a three-man midfield, they have a two. But you could flip it and say if their wide players tuck in, then they have a four. But I certainly felt how we tried to entice them onto us and try to play around, or through them at times, would be on." This is in difference from what Marco Silva pointed out following Fulham's comeback draw with United, saying, quote, "We knew how they defend, and we know they like to squeeze from the back five. And if you don't give bodies for them to squeeze from the back five, you can create superiority in the middle. We know they play with two in the middle. We tried to overload with our 3 plus Alex. It was as simple as that." Of course, Alex is Alex Iwobi, who said following that match, quote, "I push on higher and get in those pockets. We worked on it in training. We knew that we would be able to get behind their two midfielders, and their three center backs immediately jump. So we were able to execute that today." You see, Exactly as Upson was speaking of about the disengaging point, they jump forward to pressure someone like Iwobi in the pocket between the back line and the midfield. Meanwhile, a third man run is going untracked into the space that was vacated, their shape is lost, and chaos takes care of the rest. At this point, it seems as though the back line just simply won't adjust to this way of playing, and that the manager would need to change to a back four in order for them to play in a system that feels more familiar to them. They could also use someone at the base of midfield that helps to clean things up ahead of that back line. The attack, they aren't covering themselves in glory either. When you look at non-penalty XG, which gives a more accurate XG given it takes the high XG chances from the penalty spot out of the question and just considers things from open play, United still rank relatively high. They aren't bad at creating chances right now. They rank 3rd in the league when it comes to non-penalty expected goals. So they're above Arsenal and Liverpool and Chelsea. I mean, they're only behind Man City and Palace, which makes you wonder, why can't they score more? Are they just bottlers? I mean, they just spent a ton of money on players, namely in the attack, a brand new attack. To this, I can't say other than the fact that United are buying on reputation at times. And this summer, they tried to go a different route in buying guys who had previous success in the Premier League, but aren't well-known names outside of it. So what is their real level, right? If you ask the average Serie A or La Liga or Bundesliga watcher who doesn't pay attention to the Premier League teams that aren't in European competitions, by the way, they would probably have no idea who Bryan Mbeumo is. They'd remember Mateus Cunha as the guy who struggled at Atletico Madrid and had a stint at Leipzig. The other guys that they buy are promising for the future but have trouble reaching their potential, and who can blame them when they're at a topsy-turvy club like this? Basically, a lot of transfers aren't on guys who are top quality and have the pedigree of being top quality for many years. A one-off season here and there, or a promising season but then are unproven and can't replicate it. All of these things together, the defense not knowing the system, a midfield that's overrun, and an attack that misfires, as well as the board that is frozen from making a decision on the manager, a fan base that is kind of sick of sackings but believe they need one. It's all got to feel a bit hopeless, and I don't envy the Man United supporters in this moment. Like, as bad as Benfica is right now, our bad is like finishing 3rd and winning a League Cup or something, you know? Funnily enough, that was the reality under Ten Hag. Not 3rd, but winning cups. Now, not a lot to be hopeful about.